Hey there, Solar Warriors. I'm Nico Johnson, and this is Suncast. Each week, I pull back the veil on the life and business insights of clean tech entrepreneurs building the most noble and impactful companies of our time. I hope what you learn from this conversation is a catalyst for your own growth. So thanks for tuning in, and welcome to our tribe. Hey, welcome back, Solar Warriors. Welcome to a not so traditional Tactical Tuesday. Normally, this is a short form conversation with subject matter experts designed to give you practical tools, tips, and advice to build your solar business or career. And while this will certainly do that, it's a bit of a somber tone because let's be honest, you and I were both looking forward to being in New Orleans. And if you weren't going to New Orleans, I respect that too. But many of you, and you've told me so privately, we're looking forward to hanging out in New Orleans, to participating in our podcast lounge, and to just getting to see each other in person again. So I wanted to take a moment and acknowledge Solar Power International, North America Smart Energy Week 2021 in New Orleans is canceled. As of recording, this was just announced, and I reached out to our friends at Solar Power International. The organization that runs it is called Solar Power Events, if you didn't know that. And I brought a friend, Danielle Denko, the Senior Director of Marketing, on to talk a bit about what's next. And as the description suggests, we also will have a few others in the conversation as well to give you a sense of direction if you need it, and some ideas if you need them. Before we bring those folks on, first let's turn to Danielle Denko. Danielle, thank you for joining us on this Tactical Tuesday.
Thank you, Nico, for inviting me on.
Well, Danielle, we've been on a ton of calls in the past few weeks. I know from conversations with you and the Solar Power Events team, our hearts are broken for New Orleans and the community there to be devastated by yet another hurricane that, is indicative of the kind of climate change and impact that we as an industry are trying to reckon with. And we're trying to help our society move beyond and mitigate. Nevertheless, there are real impacts, not just on the lives of those in New Orleans, but now on the broader community, as our annual event that was canceled last year has been yet again impacted by an event outside of our control. So we're here to talk about that, the impacts of Hurricane Ida and its eventual necessitation of canceling the event. I'd love to hear from you. What message from Solar Power Events would you share with those who were planning to come to this event?
Yeah, Nico, we were so excited to host. And like you said, the weather had other plans for us, unfortunately. We know the event is a large gathering point for the industry. At this point, we had about 400 exhibitors and around 5,000 attendees who were planning on going. We know those numbers were probably going to increase in the next couple of weeks. But we know this point is a community gathering for everybody. And we are just so incredibly grateful for this solar community who are planning on going. We know that there's been some mixed emotions over the last couple of weeks, and we know that flights will have to be canceled, which is just so incredibly unfortunate.
Yeah, not just flights, but, hotels and restaurant reservations, et cetera, right? It's a tremendous hit to the community in New Orleans that would have received these funds, but also now we've got to figure out how to redirect our efforts and attention. And that's where you can say, yeah, actually, it's a good point about the hotel reservations.
Actually, really good point about the hotel reservations. So if you booked through our block, orchidevents.com, they were going to cancel your hotel and you'll get an email stating that and you'll be refunded. If you booked outside of our block, you'll have to do that yourself. But I really wanted to go back to that point you made about helping the community recover after this incredible devastation. And let me just tell you that our hearts are going out to the local community and the entire Gulf Coast. But I wanted to let you know that CS, SEPA, and the SETS team, we actually pulled together a list of local organizations who are helping New Orleans rebuild. So I encourage you to take a look at that.
Yeah, well, we'll certainly link to that in the show notes of this episode. Danielle, what about all the vendors that had that commitment? 400 vendors. That's a great, that's a great testament to the fact that many of us were still very committed to showing up in person. What do those vendors have to look forward to from, they're financially committed to this show? What message do you have for those?
Yeah, no, and we know that. And we, like I said, we are so incredibly grateful for those folks who are still committed to coming to the show and everybody in the industry. For those folks, those 400 people, they've already received an email from us. Our team is going to reach out next week with personal communication on what the next steps are.
Well, as we turn the page here, not all is proverbially lost. What events can folks look forward to that you all are putting on throughout the rest of the year and going into 2022?
Yeah. So, Nico, we've always actually had a digital program, which was supposed to happen the week after New Orleans. It's happening September 28th and 29th, and it's going to be just jam-packed of all incredible content, including the great debate. So we're really excited for that. And then we also have a bunch of live events that we're planning both through the end of 2021 and also into 2022. Atlanta is coming up October 11th and 12th, which is in Atlanta, Georgia. And then we have Boston, which is coming up in February. If it's anything like what we had in June, there was about 1,000 people and a bunch of exhibitors, and we're really looking forward to that event. It's one of our favorite events.
Yeah, it's one of the industry favorite events, and it's one that is always well attended. I'm going to be booking now my reservations for Boston. My decision's still out on Atlanta. I think we're actually planning to be out of town, so unfortunately, I don't know if I'll be able to make it there. But as has been the case for the last number of years, the regional events by Solar Power Events gather an enormous amount of momentum at the local regional level. And I've heard from lots of folks that say that they actually love the regional events as much as they love SPI. So, we will have more opportunities to gather together.
Yeah, and we love to hear that. And the regional events are also supposed to be really complementary to the national event. So they touch on local advocacy and other efforts that are actually going on in that region, as opposed to the large event, Solar Power International Smart Energy Week, which really talks about things broadly and even internationally.
Well, Danielle, I don't assume that everyone here is going to go to mysuncast.com for their news and information. Where can folks go if they want to learn more about the relief efforts and the upcoming events?
Yep. So everything. So the relief efforts can be found on solarpowerinternational.com. And then the events that we have coming up, both, like I said, at the end of the year and then into 2022, can be found on events.solar.
Events.solar. Danielle Denko is the Senior Marketing Manager for Solar Power Events at events.solar. And I want to thank you once again, Danielle, for joining us here on Suncast.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, Nico.
All right, next up we have Jake Rozmaryn from Antenna Group. And one of the things that always I am impressed by the Antenna Group is their velocity. Jake, welcome back to Suncast, my friend.
It's always a pleasure hanging with you, Nico.
Man, I hate to say we saw this coming, but SPI is canceled. And we got to figure out how to help our clients with redirecting their business development efforts.
Yeah, this has been the question on everyone's minds. And I think when I saw Dan Sugar's post a couple of weeks back, I was like, that's it. Next 72 hours, this thing's definitely going to be canceled. And it wasn't. And I was a bit surprised, but I can only imagine, how many times per day have people been asking you about the latest status of SPI?
Oh my gosh, dude. It seems like perhaps the industry thinks that I'm on the sets team. It's definitely north of 10 times a day that I get a message like, is it canceled yet? Is it going forward? Will I see you in New Orleans?
I'm guilty of a few of those for sure.
Indeed. Guilty as charged. I'm grateful for it though, Jake. It's a privilege to be in a place in the industry where our voice matters and where folks take into consideration our thoughts on things, right? So, that's one of the reasons I want to bring you on. You are someone that I've looked to often, and I know folks look to Antenna for guidance and strategy, but they also look to you as a thought leader, man. You've got a lot of great stuff that you put on LinkedIn. This is just one great example of how you all are continually a step ahead of others in messaging. And I think that's one of the pieces that is really critical to think about as we go into a busy season of life. The fall in the solar industry and broader mobility and clean tech is always super busy. We've just come out of the craziest summer of M&A and fundraising we've seen. And how you position yourself, especially in the absence of being able to have face-to-face events, is super important. So you guys wrote this article that we're going to link to in the show notes, and it effectively says SPI is canceled. Now what? And it's 6 very helpful strategies or ways to think about your positioning moving forward. How are you going to spend those marketing dollars? How are you going to sharpen the pencil on reaching out to clients that you can't meet face to face? And here with a few creative ideas is my friend Jake Rozmaryn. Jake, take it away. Give us some ideas to stimulate our thought process for the week after.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is something that I think everyone has been everyone's been thinking about it, and this has been a real possibility. And as we were thinking about our SPI plans for various clients, and as you can imagine, like we probably have over a dozen clients that are investing significantly in SPI. So we've had sort of contingency plans on our mind for a variety of clients, and making sure that the way that we're thinking about things can still be replicated and add value across digital or just like virtual channels. But yeah, we drafted this post. We didn't draft it in 3 minutes after the email went live. We drafted it about 2 weeks ago, anticipating that there's at least a 50% chance, and so we want to be prepared the same way that we're thinking ahead for our clients on and how they should be prepared. So yeah, we highlighted 6 areas, and 3 that I think were especially important right now that really can be embraced by anyone in the industry, regardless of where you are in the supply chain, or worth sharing today. So the first area is really just a robust direct outreach campaign over email and LinkedIn. Like those remain the most effective strategies today for reaching your audiences, for reaching different stakeholders within the industry, whether that is folks that are in the C-suite, whether that's you're trying to reach developers or financiers, manufacturers, distributors, different consultants or professional service firms across the industry, right? Like that, those remain really king in terms of reaching your audiences and helping to digitally build relationships and establish dialogue with prospects and partners. I'm a big believer in LinkedIn, very active on LinkedIn. So always encouraging people to take an aggressive stance on LinkedIn.
Indeed. Let me tag in there too, because I think that this is one that, while on the surface it may seem like, oh yeah, I'm going to lean into emailing folks and LinkedIn outreach, there are some things that I see folks doing that I can't really wrap my head around. So let me give you guys some tips. It's one thing to like be on LinkedIn. It's another thing to use LinkedIn as a tool and a strategy. So if you haven't figured out the algorithm of LinkedIn is going to reward you when you are helping LinkedIn share content and show others that their content is worthwhile. If you had folks that you were going to meet with in New Orleans that you see posting on LinkedIn, and all you do is hit the little thumbs up button, think about the last time you clicked on the data piece in LinkedIn that shows you who reacted, right? It shows like the first maybe 10 pictures. Almost nobody who is posting actually goes in after the fact and looks to see who liked, but everyone notices when you comment. And if you'll notice, Jake and I have a very specific strategy, and it's not by accident, that we comment on each other's posts, we comment on our clients' posts, we comment on folks in the industry that we admire or that we want to work with, because we want that relationship there. And you guys had a great piece that Keith penned not long ago about LinkedIn ships. And a lot of folks do kind of look at this as an inch deep and a mile wide, and they're just sort of superficially there. But trust me, if you want to see LinkedIn work for you, then there are very specific strategies you can take. One is your hashtags. Another is sharing links. If you do share links, it's best to share them in the comments. If you want an example of that, you can look at some of my recent posts on LinkedIn. Share the link in the comment, because LinkedIn doesn't want your post to take people away from their platform. They want you to stay there. A great way to do that is actually just to repurpose some of the stuff that you were going to have in your booth. Maybe it's the photos and graphics. Repurpose them as a post on LinkedIn that's a carousel. You guys do a great job of carousels with Antenna, and that is simply you upload a multi-page PDF style photo, and it's just like being on Instagram, and you can scroll to the right. You can also take that strategy on other social media platforms, but LinkedIn really loves it when you can get that dwell time. So if you're going to post, make sure you post with intention, and you try to keep people on LinkedIn, and then always respond when someone comments. Always, always, always. Try to do it within the first hour, and definitely within the first 4 hours of the post being alive, and you'll juice the algorithm, because let's face it, you got to have a strategy, and you got to know what works and what doesn't.
Yeah. I'd also just add there that, while liking content, commenting on content, sharing content, engaging with, stakeholders, through the feeds, right? Like that's obviously super valuable and effective, but like, use LinkedIn like the way you would use email when it comes to the messaging tool, right? Like that's, one of the best ways to just get a meeting set up with someone, send them a quick note, something personal, something, that shows that you're reaching out with intention, like you said, right?
Yeah, I'll tag into that on one of my pro tips here is, even though the majority of you probably don't look at your likes and engagements, those things where people do the little heart or the light bulb or whatever it is, I would encourage you to look at that. Not only look at the stats of the post, but look at those people. And actually, if you click through to each one of them and send them a message, it can be as simple as, hey, I really appreciate that you engaged with that post. Here's my Calendly link. If you'd like to, jump on the phone, I'd love to hear what your plans are for the rest of the year. It's a perfect opportunity to just casually invite someone into a conversation with you offline. And that best is done, as Jake just said, in the direct message, sort of the messaging side of LinkedIn.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jake, you have a suggestion here that caught me completely off guard because I can't imagine my mailman bringing me something from Antenna Group. Tell me what your next tip is.
The next tip is, drumroll, we're seeing a return to direct mail, which a lot of people are going to raise an eyebrow and be like, what the hell? Why are we going back to direct mail? But the reality is that everyone has been so glued to virtual channels that we're actually finding that it's really welcomed when you can add a little bit of that extra layer and giving something physical to someone. And we've come across some really cool tools lately where one is called Thanks, THNKS.
So millennial.
So millennial. It just needs like an LY, like Thanksly or something at the end, right? But that's a really cool site where you can log in, pick a bottle of wine, put in someone's email address, type in a personal note to them, and it sends it to that, and then they'll get a notification. Hey, Jake sent you this Cabernet. And then they can put in their address if they want to have it shipped to their house, or they can donate the value of that bottle of wine to a charity, and they can kind of go that route.
Well, hang on, quick question. So can I choose the charity that they could also donate it to, or is it left to them to choose it?
So I think you can choose the charity, but there are a bunch of different platforms that do this. And so I think they'll have like a few pre-selected charities, and then you can decide which one that you want to contribute to.
Yeah, well, we just had this segment with Danielle, and she mentioned that there's a link in the SPI site that links to some of the ways that you can give back. So that's a really interesting thing right there. Like that, I just learned something new. I'm definitely going to check into that, because if I can, for example, redirect it to the Footprint Project, if you don't want the wine in this example, that is just a really brilliant way to engage and have a offline way of communication with someone.
Yeah, and we love the Footprint Project. They actually won the Midwest Solar Expo startup pitch competition, I think in 2018, where we're really early days for them. But love seeing all the momentum and all the contributions that they can make during these insane times right now.
Well, Jake, sort of wrapping up this list here, and there are more that we'll point you to on this fantastic post. There is a third recommendation that you have, and it's one that I know from having had conversations with folks, there's a certain pucker factor, but I'd love to hear your thoughts here on the micro-targeting your audience piece.
Yeah, so we're in this pretty awesome time where it's pretty easy to micro-target the exact people that you're trying to reach on digital channels, and right. The targeting capability today is more advanced than it's ever been, and makes it really easy to get your message in front of the people, get your ask in front of the people that you're trying to reach. We hear it all the time because most of our work is B2B, and people will say like we're so B2B, like we don't need to do anything on social because it's all like business to business. I'm like dude, at the end of the day, it's like it's people. You're still talking to people. Like you're not like selling to an LLC. You're selling to a person, right? Like, and people consume media, and people consume lots of social media, even, those B2B audiences. And people would be like, oh, but like, there's only 300 organizations that, we can even sell to. And we're like, yeah, well, you can put those 300 organizations' names and just get your content on social in front of those organizations.
That's
right?
Exactly right.
You can be doing that. And it's cost effective. And so, yeah, I mean, like LinkedIn, like paid campaigns on LinkedIn, some of the highest, while the like per click or per impression number is typically more expensive than other platforms like AdWords or Facebook ads, things like that. It's some of the highest value and highest converging paid media activities that you can do.
No doubt about it. Well, I mean, that I'm a huge LinkedIn fanboy. It's where I spend most, if not all of my time. We've practically no Instagram presence unless you want to see what my kids are up to this weekend. But paid digital on LinkedIn is Gary Vee says this all the time. It's a highly overlooked and high converting channel. And a lot of folks don't do it because they're afraid to take that step. That's kind of what I meant with that pucker factor. Your clients at Antenna are lucky that you've got an entire digital team in Chicago that helps make it easy for them. There's a lot of resources available. I'll just shameless plug here. If you are completely unclear what your LinkedIn strategy should be, you can talk to Jake or myself, and we can tell you how we've made campaigns profitable for ourselves and our clients on LinkedIn for the last several years, and it just keeps getting better. I'll kind of round this out with something that I wasn't going to mention the virtual event piece but I think it's cool. You should go check out the post, and there are a few other ideas, but there's a really interesting opportunity here. Jake, you and I both have converted our in-person meetings and live opportunities and events, including Midwest Solar Expo and a lot of the Suncast activity and events, into virtual events. I followed your lead, creating an actual 3D virtual event in Verbella. But a lot of folks still kind of like paid ads. They kind of feel like this is a step beyond what they're comfortable with. And it's just amazing the number of the tools like Remo that make it really easy for you to host a virtual event these days. I don't want folks to overlook the reality that we're leaning on an organization like SIA, SEPA, and SETS to help us bring folks into a big arena. But to Jake's point about paid ads, we can bring those same 300 people or some portion of them into our own private event. So don't overlook the opportunity staring you right in the face. Just because we're zoomed out and even virtual event fatigued, there still is an opportunity to be very personable in the way that you engage the same folks that you hoped to see in New Orleans.
Yeah, people might not be physically in New Orleans, but they will certainly be online, and there are plenty of ways to engage them. And send them a bottle of wine so that they can, drink while they engage with you online. So, Nico, you've been integral to the SPI digitization, over the past couple of years, and you've created this podcast lounge platform that has just created tons of amazing opportunities to engage both people at SPI and folks that are at home. We have a variety of clients that are involved in the podcast lounge in different ways, shapes, and forms. But curious, like, what are you telling people now, just in terms of your the guests and sponsors, and where are they with SPI now having to move into full virtual?
Yeah, to your point back at the beginning, a fair amount of the messages I have gotten over the last few weeks are from participants like the guests that were going to speak at the podcast lounge, the sponsors, many of whom have come through Antenna. You guys are great supporters of all the efforts we do here at Suncast Media. And they're asking the same question through a different lens. Am I going to get to tell my message, right? Like everybody is looking forward to this idea that I dreamed up in 2018 and that the Antenna team helped pull off in 2019 in person in Utah. And we were very much looking forward to an even bigger and better, what we're now rebranding as Power Up Central. But the reality is those stories still need to be told. And we still have our podcast channel. We've got the Suncast channel, and we've got a lot of conversations ongoing right now where we're integrating some of the conversations that we expected to have live back into virtual discussions that we'll publish both here on the podcast as well as on our YouTube channel. A couple of those, in fact, we had been broadcasting about our great debate, which was going to be live in the foyer on the first day of the show. Super sad that we can't do that in person.
That's
but
with
we
Tor,
have,
right?
Yeah, with Tor. That's right.
Awesome.
So our good buddy Tor Solar Fred Valenza, he and I co-produced this great debate series, and we were going to do it live, which is a lot of fun. We're going to do it right in the foyer while people are kind of waiting to get into the exhibit hall. And we're definitely going to do that again next year. But in the meantime, the folks at SETS have graciously agreed to allow us to broadcast it the following week during the digital program that Danielle mentioned a little earlier. We're also going to do the Podcasters Roundtable, which Mike Casey cooked up as an extension of his Editors Roundtable. So that's going to be live as well in the digital program the week following what would have been Solar Power International. So I think that's the 28th and 9th, if I'm not mistaken on the dates. You can find more of that if you go to the show notes and just click on the link to the great debate. And then, lastly, there were a lot of conversations ongoing especially with sponsors who were plopping down money, right? So we're helping those who wanted to utilize that amazing forum to elevate their brand, to get more brand awareness here on our show and through our partners that can also help them elevate their brand messaging. So excited I have to keep it kind of a little tight-lipped on that, but you'll be able to see here in the podcast feed some of the results of that in the coming days and weeks, and some fun announcements that we weren't able to make at SPI or won't be able to make live at SPI will be coming out around our 6th anniversary in early October.
6 years. Wow.
Yeah, man. We're about to publish episode 400 next week.
Wow.
And actually, I don't know if I haven't posted this on LinkedIn. You may be the first person I'm telling this. We just tipped over today, which on the day of recording is Friday, September 3rd, 400,000 all-time downloads.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So we're like 400,100 downloads. Yeah. It's a fun milestone. I think it's ironic that within weeks we're hitting 400,000 as well as 400 episodes. But it's time, as your article suggests, to turn our focus back to the virtual world we all inhabit while we wait for opportunities once again to see each other in person. I can't wait for the chance to get a chance to high five and even give you a hug, my friend. It's been too long.
Too long. So what do you think? Intersolar is still planning to be in person January. What's the call?
I think that actually there are going to be a fair number of folks in Salt Lake for what is it? I always forget the rebrand of AWEA, American Clean Power. Is that right?
Clean Power.
Yeah. Clean Power 21. I think I'm hearing from folks they're going to be there. A number of folks have said the same thing. So you're going to be at Intersolar. I think for me, it's a little too early to call because I hadn't really planned to go. Danielle just mentioned that the North America edition of the SPI sort of regional conferences in February in Boston is still on. I very, very certainly will be in Boston in February, despite the fact that I have a distinct hate for the cold.
That's Solar Storage Northeast?
I don't know the name of it, actually. We'll have to. We're definitely going to link to all of that in the show notes, so you can go check it out there. But it's the one that used to be America East.
Solar East. PV. There's
PV America.
Yeah, PV America East and West. So that's coming back?
Well, yeah, but they rebranded. I mean, I think they just incorporated it into the SPI show flow, and it's what happens now. It's like SPI Northeast or something like that. It happens in Boston.
So those are the solar storage, like Northeast, solar storage, Northwest. The SETS regional shows, which are
exactly the SETS regional shows. Yeah,
great shows.
So I'll definitely be in Boston in February, and I don't know yet if I'll make it out to Intersolar, but it's on the radar. It's on the list, and I welcome if you're listening here and you want us to come to your town. I'm gonna soft commit Jake and the antenna team that will come do something in your town. We'll figure it out. I think that if we could get enough people to raise their hand and say, hey, come do something in our town, it'd be worth it at least to host one of these famous dinners Jake Rozmaryn's is known for.
After our dance session as 3D avatars, now we got to take that act in person.
We absolutely do. We absolutely do. Jake Rozmaryn, it's such a pleasure always to have you on Suncast. Jake is the executive vice president of Antenna Group, and he is one of the folks I always turn to when I'm looking for what is next.
All right, awesome, Nico. Thanks so much for having me on. It's always a pleasure. Great to see you. And we'll be partying in person in no time. I have no doubt. But everyone, stay safe. We'll see each other soon.
Yeah, stay safe, everyone. See you on the flip side. That's a wrap on this conversation, Warrior, but I do hope that we'll see you back here on Thursday for this week's long-form interview. I also encourage you to check out other episodes of Suncast and let me know what you think of these shorter-form discussions. Do you want more like this? We've got hundreds of episodes, resources, and highlights from these discussions, along with the social media links for each episode guest, book recommendations, and so much more over at mysuncast.com. And that's also where you'll find other ways to engage with our Suncast tribe, like subscribing to our weekly tribe exclusive emails or even joining our exclusive inner circle of infinite learners and clean economy champions we affectionately refer to as the Guild. If you're on Spotify or iTunes, I do so appreciate your rating and review so that others can also find Suncast more easily. And a special thank you to our sponsors who help make this podcast possible. You can learn more about them at mysuncast.com/sponsor, as well as learn more about becoming a sponsor if that's something that you're interested in. You can follow the links there as well to any of the offers that we've discussed about any of our sponsors here today. Remember, you are what you listen to. Thanks again for showing up, Solar Warrior. It's half the battle.